And this specific webinar, our first HubSpot webinar of 2021, concerns the HubSpot CRM for B2B growth. And this is actually right out of our sales and marketing alignment playbook. So getting into things, before really getting into the agenda of our webinar here, we just want to start with this. Flawless Inbound, what we are, what we do. I know a lot of people in the audience are familiar with us, but for those who aren't, we are a business transformation accelerator organization. Now, I know digital transformation is a buzzword used by many people, a lot of companies now in 2021, because it's a transformation that a lot of organizations are going through. But to us, what it means is creating a strategic competitive advantage in different levels of the organization. It is not a fixed destination, but rather a journey. And we find that Flawless Inbound being the partner along this journey, it is as critical that there is alignment between the partner and the organization going through the digital transformation, as well as the technology that they are going ahead with, that they are going on that journey with. So we have been fortunate over the past 7 years now to help 120 plus organizations go through their unique digital transformation. And the purpose of this slide here is actually to show kind of our playbooks. You're going to see a few images, but don't look too far into the details. There'd be far too much to explain everything, but these are some of our playbooks just to give everyone a high level understanding. So we start with revenue driven marketing a lot of the times, ensuring that there is a active and healthy amount of qualified leads coming in to organizations for them to close. Then we talk about sales and marketing alignment. It's one thing to create leads and have that potential business. But it's another thing too to make sure that sales and marketing departments are working well together. So this is actually this webinar today is going to be mostly focused on this playbook, our sales and marketing alignment playbook. Then we go into a customer delight model, creating, you have a lead base, which is great. Your sales and marketing department are working well together, but now you need a customer-centric model to nurture and grow and cross-sell and upsell to those existing accounts that you work so hard on acquiring. From there, then, we want to build a front-end commerce digital organization. Now we are pivoting away from sales, marketing, and services, and we're focusing on other departments now, whether that's something on the ERP side, financials, maybe that's warehouse management, automating things like order to cash processes. We do that too with our partnerships that with technology vendors. And lastly, again, now connecting all the dots and having a holistic system about unified leadership and customer expertise, connecting all the parts together. That is one of the final stages of digital transformation. But as we said, it's a journey, not a destination. So you get to that stage and you continue growing and growing within it. So those are our playbooks. But as I said, we're going to be focusing on the sales and marketing alignment playbook today. Over the past 7 years, we have learned a lot, and we've learned a lot by working with so many organizations across Canada and the United States, anything from software as a service companies to managed service providers, IT companies, to home builders, construction organizations, wholesale distribution. These are the areas that we have a lot of expertise in, and we've learned we have some scars on our back, but for the most part, we have been able to help these organizations get to their to a level of digital transformation that they've always desired. So these are some of the companies we've been fortunate to work with. Now, who are we? I've mentioned the platforms before, but we primarily focus on two enterprise technologies, one being HubSpot and the other being Oracle NetSuite. And we've, as Sahar says, we have completed over 126 successful implementations of the two platforms. Now getting into the agenda of today's workshop and why you're all here. We're right in the midst of our introduction now, so I don't need to talk any more about that. Where we're gonna start though, when we get really into the meat and potatoes of this, is addressing something known as sales friction. We'll get to that a little bit later. Then talk about 9 specific sales processes to automate. How do we create frictionless sales environments and align them with what marketing and other departments, maybe even customer service, are doing within the organization. We'll do some closing remarks and takeaways. And as I said, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Sahar and I are going to be monitoring the chat while we go through this presentation. But if you do have any questions that maybe come up on a specific slide that we're on, feel free to put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will answer those and actually try and answer them while we're still on that slide. If we don't get to them, rest assured we will address them at the very end. So, introducing your presenters, I've been talking a lot, but my name is Max. I'm an inbound consultant here for Flawless Inbound. I am working out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where it is freezing cold right now. We have avoided the cold weather for some time, but suddenly this week it has finally found us. So I'm inside in my warm house. Normally I'd have ton of sweaters and blankets on right now, but for the purpose of looking presentable for this webinar, I have decided to put on a collared shirt. And with me here is Sahar, our Chief Revenue Officer, and I think he wants to say a couple things to everybody.
Yeah, so I want to say, first of all, Max, thank you, and thank you everybody for joining today. I hope you get good value out of the session today. I'm actually part of the Flawless Inbound team as well, and we have now teams in Vancouver, Edmonton, Alberta, and Ontario, and very quickly, hopefully, we're launching in the US as well. So for our US clients, we'll have presentation in the US. Looking forward to a very engaging session. I will make sure to monitor the chat as Max is presenting. Max, back to you.
Great. So here's a good segue. I was talking about how cold it is here in Edmonton. So before getting into what is sales friction, we're wondering, how do you keep warm during Canadian winters? And the answer to that is you create friction, right? You rub your hands together. I mean, it's a really cheap, free way to do it. I mean, there's better ways, but this is one tip, especially for those joining us from the United States who may not have experienced a Canadian winter before. This works really well. Now, why did I even put this in the presentation? Well, because we're talking about a different kind of friction. This is a metaphor for sales friction, which is we define as anything that interrupts the flow of the sale. That could be something administrative, it could be something in a process, in a workflow, in even the overall general framework of the organization that impairs salespeople from doing the thing that they should be doing more than anything else in the organization, and that is selling, being in meetings, and closing opportunities. So as you can see, Batman, his friction in this scenario is this very realistic shark that we've seen that he seems to have a lot of problems with, but we promise by the end of the presentation, Batman is going to have a frictionless process climbing up that ladder there. So what are some examples of sales friction? As I've said, it's something that impairs people from doing salespeople from doing their jobs. And we're finding that through inside sales research that only about 35% of a salesperson's job is actually spent selling. And 27% of salespeople are spending an hour more of data entry a day, a lot of administrative work, right? And that is what's eating up the bulk of their time and not allowing them to maybe create as much opportunity or closing enough revenue for the organization. So we're looking from a time allocation standpoint. We see that administrative tasks and general follow-ups are taking up greater than 25%, can take up greater than 25% of a salesperson's day. So the focus then of this webinar today is, what can we do from a technology and a playbook standpoint that is actually going to allow the salesperson to reduce the amount of time spent between those two columns there, reduce that time, and then allocate that newly saved time back into what we want them doing, and that's sales. So let's get into that. The first thing for what we want to do to help a salesperson sell more, right? This is really addressing that general follow-up, is to create something called build sequences. Now within HubSpot, a sequence, what you're looking at here kind of looks like an email template, and you're not, if that's what you think, you're not far off, but this is an email template on steroids. And what do I mean by that is that we have some programmable logic to a business logic to make this a far more efficient resource for a salesperson to use. So what do I mean? As you can see, we have an email template here that has some contact properties so it's already pre-built. It'll extrapolate contact properties from the HubSpot CRM and actually send off a automated email queue to that person. However, what did it's not simply a template, as I said. With the logic that we've said, we can enroll whoever we want from a contact resource management part of our sales automation platform, enroll them in these sequences that they get one email template for the purpose of prospecting, maybe an introduction. Then we can program logic around that, saying, hey, if there's no response, we can send within three days another email that, again, is a nurturing email, right? Rarely do things work the first time in B2B selling, right? It often takes 7 to 12 outreaches before getting that first meeting, right? That is a lot of administrative time for that salesperson to be continuing working, 8 to 12, let's say 7 to 12 touch points with that person. So what do? We create that sequence. So all of this is pre-built. You design it for that persona, right? You don't use this for every single person in your CRM. It would never work. But you segment your data, maybe by job role, maybe by industry, whatever the salesperson might be targeting. And you send off that introductory email. Again, all the content is pre-built for you. You have these contact properties, as you see, contact company name, contact first name. As long as the data is segmented properly in your CRM, it's going to extrapolate that data, make a perfectly legible email for you. And then from there, you're not banking on that initial outreach email to work the first time. No, you have programmed some sequences beyond that to nurture that lead further. So an additional email of, hey, here's a case study. Here's some facts and some statistics that we found in your industry that might be interested in you. Whatever resonates with whoever you're targeting with that sequence. That's the whole purpose behind it. So a sequence then in HubSpot is kind of a sophisticated email/task workflow that makes things more accurate and reportable for a sales process and allows that salesperson to just within a couple of clicks of the button to enroll those people and then go back to what they do best, and that's selling, right? Let the automation work in the back end and nurture that lead for you. Now, this kind of is at the start of a sales process. So we're talking leads right now. You're going to be seeing this slide come up continually throughout this webinar. But right now, we're talking early stages. The salesperson has entered in someone's information that they've met. Maybe they're using a tool like ZoomInfo. Maybe before the year 2020, or they've been they got some business cards at a networking event. Maybe they did their research online. They are finding leads that align with what their organization, whatever that solution or product that they're trying to sell, and they're putting that information in this somewhat least stage. Now, we want to get them all the way from there to being a customer, but we know, especially because most of the organizations on here are B2B, it is not that quick of a sales process, right? It doesn't go from interest, transaction, customer, right? There are more stages between that. So we want to bring that lead, that person that we've targeted, that we want to build that interest with, that advocacy with, and get them into that sales process. We want to get them into the responsibility of the marketing team. So that's where we're going to be going next. And how do we do that? Well, we have to start updating properties. One of the most critical steps of proper CRM usage is segmenting your data. So how do we do that? Well, firstly, from a sales perspective, it's important that we know where this person is, or where this organization is, so we can assign them to the right territory, right? So territory is very important. Life cycle stage depending, as I said, as you saw in that previous slide, depending on what the level of interest is, or whether you're reaching out to someone who's a decision maker or a champion within the organization, you need to determine, you need to have a level of qualitative analysis there, that the salesperson uses their own logic to determine this person is, early stages. This is a lead. This is not even a marketing qualified lead yet. It's someone I'm interested in pursuing, but we're not sure yet. We're not sure. So setting in that life cycle stage, or maybe they're ready to buy, right? Move them across the deal pipeline to someone who's ready to get into consultations, right? And then, of course, the contact or company owner, a very important one. We want to know who actually brought this lead in, who is responsible for nurturing that sale, that opportunity or that lead all the way into a consultative sale. So this is now what we're talking about is the lead status, right? So territory assignment, which you already saw, that contact property, that's important. We set, maybe it's a state, maybe if you're in the United States, maybe it's a region, maybe it's a province here in Canada. We want to set what territory. We want to establish that within our CRM and attribute that to the right contact owner. So it starts with designing the territory, going a step further, right? Maybe that's one territory, looking after the states in the United States that belongs to that salesperson. But maybe two, you're an international organization, right? We want to go further. Our sales reps sell internationally. They may not be in France, Germany, or Switzerland, right? But they have the capacity, through tools like Zoom, things like that, to sell to that area of the world, right? So we don't want to just limit them on that. We want to grow by country, right? We want to cast a wider net for that salesperson. And from there then to a very important one, again, depending on the size of your sales team, is filtering by postal code, right? Where they can actually go to, drive to. If it is, if you are the kind of organization that, once restrictions are lifted, that are going to go to in-person selling, well, it's important too that we have that contact property set up so that the data that, whether they're in that postal code, whether that they're in that state or region, whether they're in that country, we want to make sure that only that data appears to that salesperson, and then they're not overwhelmed and sifting through data that is through a lot of data that is irrelevant to them. So here's how an enrollment would look. So once those contact properties, let's say we're doing strictly postal codes for this sales example, once that is filled out, then that is assigned to sales territory zone A. The zone A sales rep now sees every single contact within the CRM or the sales pipeline that are in these zip codes there. So good properties to update with workflows, right? Workflows, we're talking sequences, right? Now we want to go into life cycle stage, right? What do I mean by that? This is bringing someone from lead status to marketing qualified lead, doing a handoff. So that person is the marketing team's responsibility and no longer the sales team's responsibility. So how do we know when something's the marketing team's responsibility using automation? Well, a lot of the times it's by forms, right? The sales team has built that initial interest. They have logged that person's information in the CRM, and now they have handed it off to the marketing team. However, there are other ways too, through form submission, right? A lead that's unqualified just yet has come in. They've requested consultation, right? The marketing team evaluates that. Maybe they've requested a quote. Maybe they're looking at pages on your website that contain pricing. Again, a strong business transformation software or technology, I should say, like HubSpot, has the ability to track a person's engagement with your online resources, right? And lastly, this is something that's called lead scoring here, right? Once a contact's property, if they've done enough, let's say they've attended a webinar, let's say they have read blogs, they have viewed pricing pages, things like that. Once their lead qualification score has gone above 135, again, whoops, that number could be just about anything, depending on how qualified you want your leads to be before handing them off to the sales department. That can be set up within HubSpot, and then automatically that becomes a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead, depending on how they scored according to their engagement.
Hey, Max, can I add a couple of points here? One of the things I know you mentioned sequencing in the beginning of the presentation today. And I was looking at our audience today, and I noticed there are sales leaders and there's also marketing leaders as part of the attendance. So I'm sure some of the question coming in is, what's the difference between sequence and kind of email campaigns? And I would like to address that. I think sequencing is more of really, it's a very strategic and specific tool only for the sales team. So I want all the audience today to think in a way of sequencing is really a tool for one to few versus an email campaign. That's really more of a marketing tool, and that's the one to many. So think about your email campaigns as like your monthly newsletter, product education, very generic, it's one to many. But the tool that Max was speaking about from the beginning of the call today is called sequencing. It's more of a, like you're going very tactical in a specific segmented list, and you know that this list is very qualified, that you can create a deal out of that list. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing in this slide here, I also want to emphasize the message that we use a term called progressive profiling. We all love to have landing pages on our website and ask the prospect a lot of questions when they're filling forms. But what we've noticed lately is that it's okay to ask them only one or two questions. When they come back, you can ask them more questions. So each time they come back and answer one or two questions, as Max said, we can increase the lead scoring from a HubSpot score perspective, which then can put this lead on a fast track versus another lead that need more nurturing by the marketing team till they hand off to the sales team. Max, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sahar. So depending on their activity, we can now attribute that person to being a marketing qualified lead by changing their life cycle stage in their contact properties within the CRM. So now that you've set up a life cycle stage of marketing qualified leads, you ought to create an active list that is now becomes the responsibility. It goes away from the sales team and it goes to the marketing team. So now, again, what Sahar said, it's critical to have data segmented. So the marketing team knows who they can and who they can't market to, depending on what life cycle stage they're in. If the life cycle stage has been set as a marketing qualified lead, that's fair game for them. Their goal then is to nurture and bring that person to a sales qualification status. And lastly, contact or company owner standard property, another good property to update here. So now that we're in marketing qualified lead status, we want to talk about if-then logic here. So now that we have data segmented, we have a life cycle set up, and we have a territory that this person in our CRM has been assigned to, now we can rotate to the right person. I hope we have a couple of Office fans in the audience because you'll recognize some of these names. But now this lead becomes the responsibility of the person who's in zone A. So let's say it's Jim Halpert here, right? Or again, maybe things have changed, right? Maybe it's a different postal code, it's a different country. That can be the responsibility of Pam, Dwight, so on and so forth, right? Making sure that we kind of have that logic set up of who's responsible for what, and not making it a free for all where everyone is in one territory, all being contacted by these 4 people. This is critical to have that data and that flow segmented.
Max can add also
Sure.
another sometimes the reason why we program it this way for our clients. So let's say you have a group of sales rep focused on one region, one state, or one province. And let's say some of them are on vacation, which happens a lot. So we can say, hey, maybe if Jim is on vacation, he didn't answer to that lead, then I will wait for 48 hours, move it to Pam, and so on and so forth. That's another way of thinking about it this way. Another way also, sometimes we do it this way, especially for wholesale manufacturing, where sometimes you as a manufacturer, you don't sell directly to end users, but you sell to a distributor for that end user. So maybe in this region, you have 2 or 3 distributors who are licensed to sell your products. So you can say, you know what, first come, first serve. First, I'm going to give the sales to my first distributor, Jim. Jim is not interested, then I'll move it to Pam or to Dwight or to Phil. So there can be multiple reasons why we kind of really use this tactic in programming your CRM. Max, back to you.
Okay. Now, this really expands logic now. Now we have life cycle stage, marketing qualified lead, zone A, zone B, zone C, zone D, right? Now we know, as Sahara was saying, if let's say Jim is first on the priority list, he has the most, he has the most time available in his hands. That's who the lead is going to go through first. But then let's say Jim did not respond within 24 or 48 hours, however, whatever allowance you want to put for that salesperson, well, then we don't just let that lead sit there and die and not get reached out to. We rotate it to the next person, to Pam, to Dwight, to Phyllis, right? Same goes for zone B. Again, a lot of enterprise organizations, you have extra coverage in your sales territories, or maybe you're a small mid-sized organization. You can also set this up as, if someone's on vacation or too busy, to rotate to an available salesperson, maybe outside of that territory. That logic is programmable within HubSpot. And the task here provides a notification. It's not just arbitrary. It creates a notification that, hey, this lead has been assigned to you now. You have 48 hours to reach out. Please do so. Please do so, or it's going to rotate to the next person. Now, lead rejection is an important process because while leads can come in a variety of ways into a sales pipeline, there needs to be a level of qualitative assessment by a human, right? To see, does this lead actually fit our industry customer profile? Can they afford us? Looking at all the factors that a salesperson would use to qualify whether this is a good opportunity or bad. But let's say they reject it. So what happens then? Does that become a sales qualified lead? Well, you have to create a process for that. You can't just you can't just say, oh, this is unqualified and never return to it. There still needs to actually be some programmable logic on what happens to this marketing qualified lead after a salesperson has done their initial outreach. So we want to create a lead rejection drop-down property. And here are some of the reasons why a lead may be a bad lead. Maybe the timing's wrong. Maybe they don't have it in the budget right now. Maybe it was, the territory was a qualified property, right? These can all be drop-down menus within our CRM. So the salesperson could quickly choose one of these reasons. And now we have logic programmed of what happens next. If it's bad timing, well, then automatically a notification can be created that salesperson, let's say they put 6 months bad timing, in 5 months, or maybe even 6 months, that salesperson gets the notification of, hey, you rejected this lead because the timing wasn't right. It's now 6 months later. Here's your automated reminder to reach out to that person again and see if they're sales qualified now. Things like outside of the region, well, then we can have an additional contact property of what region is this person in? So now that lead goes to the proper salesperson now, and it just doesn't stay in limbo, right? All of that can be programmed about all the different reasons for rejection here.
Max, can I say one thing? Sorry for
Sure.
that. We actually use the technique like this, especially for technology companies and also for home builders. One sample was a Rohit community. It's a builder in Edmonton, and the reason why they do that, because let's say they sell a single family house, and usually they know exactly that maybe if they didn't qualify now from a mortgage perspective, they will qualify a year, 2 years. Or maybe they have a database where they know if you're upsizing or downsizing your home, so we can program this time to be a 5 years, a 4 years, and so on. So it stays in their database, and they can always sequence and rotate the leads, even though if their sales rep or they have maybe a high turnover of sales rep for any reason, they never lose the logic or the data that was on that lead. So that was actually a good example that we programmed for a builder in Edmonton here this way. Max, back to you.
Awesome. So now that the lead rejection drop-down menu, the reason for rejection has been selected. Now, again, we kind of jumped ahead here, but now we want to automate workflows around that reason for rejection. So that can be enrollment, right? Now that lead has been rejected, it gets passed from sales qualification status back to the responsibility of the marketing team. They now get enrolled in email campaigns, right? And this is not the purpose of email blasting someone to the point that they unsubscribe. Hopefully the salesperson has done the job of filling out all the contact properties they can, so the marketing team could be very tactical and realize, hey, this person is from the manufacturing industry, let's say in the Western United States territory. We're going to enroll them in this email campaign so that they don't forget about Flawless Inbound, and that they can still educate, and that the content that we're sending them, we've enrolled them in the right thing so that it is actually receptive with them, and we're not just wasting their time. They're learning, educating, and becoming more qualified as a result, right? And now, assuming on what the interaction is, we can qualify this person better up until the point of the sixth touch point, let's say, assuming everything was successful up to that point. Now the salesperson gets another task of reaching out of, hey, the marketing team has done their job. This person has been interacting with our content. I think it's time for another outreach again, keeping that cycle going of new leads coming back for the salesperson. Because it's important not just to just lose a prospect's data just because they didn't do sales with us the first time, right? There's always an opportunity that could come up in 6 months' time, 1 year time, whatever the right timeline is. Now, we want to get into something called creating tasks. We had alluded to this. This is kind of a notification system for salespeople on nurturing and leads and doing their initial outreach. So that is when we've gone to sales, kind of in the middle between sales qualification status and opportunity status, right? So a task, let's say maybe you're not using HubSpot, but you're using something like Asana, Salesforce, other platforms that plug in with HubSpot, depending on what you do sales from. That's totally fine. We could create now, depending on how that lead has been nurtured so far, we could create an automated task, as I said, for outreach, maybe for an email, maybe for asking this person to register an event, whatever it might be. Whatever the salesperson needs to use their logic here, because now we're going away from automation into using some actual their own judgment and their own logic to determine what is the best next step to take with this lead that has come back and is in front of me right now and I need to do work with, right? We can create notifications, SMS notifications, right? Texting the sales rep's phone of saying, hey, here's this person's contact information. Here are the notes that you've made. Time to reach out. Here's how they've been interacting with us for the past few weeks, past few months, right? All of that can be put within an SMS notification. Email notifications is the one that we use at Flawless Inbound. We have Office 365, so Microsoft Outlook, automatically we get an email about someone's lead qualification status and whether that it's the appropriate time now to reach out to that person again because the marketing team has done their job and has nurtured that lead for us. Integrations too, like if you have a collaboration platform like Slack, that's another way too, where the salesperson get a notification about outreach. So as far as a flow goes, right, identifying that the behavior, right, then, does it warrant a task or do we continue nurturing? And then create the task notification according to what the reps use, whether that's email, whether that's texting, whether that's a collaboration app like Slack. So that is the three-step system that we put there. Now for deal stage automation, now that this is a qualified sales opportunity, we want them now to appear in the pipeline, something that the salesperson looks at every single day, right? And putting in the right deal stage, right? Now, a pipeline is not just a place where a deal stays and the rep manually moves it. No, we can actually create automation around there of how does this person move from, let's say, an appraisal schedule to a technical inspection, right? Well, they have to satisfy these criteria that we put in place. These can be solved by automation. These five properties can't. This is the sales rep's. This is the sales rep's responsibility. This is the automation behind HubSpot. Together now, once all those 10 criteria are satisfied, it can now move on to the next stage. That is what deal stage automation looks like. Now, stale deal alerts. Let's say a deal is won or not won, right? It's been sitting in the same deal stage because the salesperson can't satisfy that 5 criteria. What do we do in that case before bringing that from an opportunity to a customer? Well, there's a few things. First thing, depending on how long your sales cycles are, if let's say two weeks a month on average, if a deal has sat in one stage for too long, we could do a couple things. We can, instead of just someone manually checking deals every day, we could create a notification system of notifying managers when a sales rep hasn't been able to bring a deal from one stage to the next. The manager just gets that notification the same way that we saw on the previous slide. Could be Slack, could be email, could be text message, to talk to that salesperson and find out what's impairing the sale from moving from one stage to the next. Do you need help? Do you need coaching? Is the sale qualified, or do we need to move it back to the responsibility of the marketing team? That's what the notification system is all about within HubSpot if a deal has been dormant and hasn't moved for a while from one stage to the next. Now, there's also win-back opportunities, right? So if a deal opportunity is rejected, again, just like marketing, a deal going back to a marketing qualification status. If a deal is lost at this point, we don't want to let go either, because there still could be future opportunities. We want to make sure that there is automation and workflows in place for what comes next. A deal has been lost near the end of the pipeline. We want to ensure that there's the right logic in place to potentially create cross-sell, upsell opportunities or brand new opportunities for that person. So we set a closed lost reason within HubSpot. The salesperson says, hey, in this case, Dunder Mifflin, a competitor, provided a steeper discount than we could. So we lost the competition, we saved that. And that is an enrollment trigger for the marketing team to treat that customer, or pardon me, that prospect in a late deal stage cycle kind of differently than they would with someone that they're nurturing, a lead that they're nurturing, right? So we bring them back and start giving them different things to think about, different content that's receptive with them, and start nurturing a different type of opportunity with them. Again, even though they didn't do business with us once, doesn't mean that they won't do business with us again. And we want to nurture that lead differently.
Can I add something, Max,
Yeah, of
to that
course.
slide? We have worked with clients before where when they start selling their services and their products in a very defined specific market, this kind of clients, they know exactly their competition and they know the market share. And what we have seen with some of clients who are kind of mature to that level, that they have a competitive takeout marketing and sales campaign. So the reason, for example, why you guys see here that there is something called the close lost reason category. So maybe let's say we are competing with 5 vendors, let's say in the state of California, let's say. And we know exactly if a customer decided to go with vendor A versus us in California, we have a campaign that we can run on them. Let's say that will take another 6 months to a year to kind of do a competitive win back campaign and then maybe apply a land and expand sales process to win back that client. So this tactic, we have programmed it before, and it works very well, especially for mature companies who know exactly their competition. They know who are after them or who are they after to gain market share from, and they have preset kind of win back campaigns to do that. Max, back to you.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Sahar. You know, but before my days at Flawless Inbound, I worked for an organization that had 4 competitors that were very well known, and they had playbooks about sales playbooks and marketing playbooks on how to win back from these organizations. And then with a technology like HubSpot now, automating that process, right? So that person is in our CRM. We can now do enroll them in campaigns that talk about why switching from company X to company Y or to our company. All of that logic is programmable within deals that are lost at a late stage. And now, hopefully, you've brought them to that to that final stage of being a customer. So as you can see, there's a lot of both manual work and automated work that happens, especially in B2B sales cycles, of bringing something all the way from lead status to customer status. So that is kind of the bulk of the presentation here. Our big takeaways are actually 2. So firstly, getting back to the very beginning, have you mapped any points of friction in your sales process? Maybe this webinar today has made you aware of something. Of, hey, we're having problems between our marketing qualifications process to our to our sales qualification status, or when leads are sales qualified, they're not being closed at a rate we're happy with. Maybe we need to work backwards, right? Reverse engineer things and qualify and do better with our qualification. These are all points of friction that we've talked about today. There's a whole lot more in that, in between each of those customer life cycles that you saw in the previous slide, right? So what can be solved with automation? What can be solved with manual human intervention? And secondly, HubSpot, as you've seen, I think there's a misperception that HubSpot is strictly a marketing automation platform. We've hardly talked about marketing today, and it is a robust CRM and sales automation platform that can really grow into your full enterprise growth platform. So it's something, if you're already a HubSpot user, connecting all the different parts between marketing, sales, customer services, this is integral to make sure you're getting the max ROI on HubSpot. So please evaluate your own dashboards and see, are you actually using every single feature that we've talked about the CRM or the sales sales functions within HubSpot. So Harry, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I just want to add a couple of comments as well, Max, here. So I know also maybe some of the members today on the call are evaluating different CRM platforms to start with. And we have been helping organization actually in the past to do a fair evaluation. If you're maybe comparing HubSpot CRM with, let's say, Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce or Maximizers and other platforms, one of the things we have seen is that they're all great platforms. But one of the things you need to be very aware of before choosing a platform is how much will it cost me to implement and to train my team. And what we have seen with, at least with the HubSpot platform, the implementation is very cost effective versus building a CRM that can give you 500,000 things, but it will cost you a lot to customize it for that as well. The last thing I just want to share is I usually love to engage in speaking and training events. So I know there's a couple of people from Vistage today. So welcome to the Vistage team. There's some of them are kind of CEO peer groups. We're actually always part of Vistage, and we do a lot of training and speaking with the Vistage member, either in the US or Canada. So more than happy to connect with teams offline if you guys want us to run specific sessions like this with your Vistage and CEO peer groups as well. Max, back to you.
Awesome. Now, one thing that we want to offer, especially for the community on here using HubSpot, is a portal review. We talked about a lot of automation, a lot of workflows today. So we are more than happy, especially with all the features introduced in HubSpot's inbound conference this year, that you're using your HubSpot portal to its full optimal potential. So we do this all the time. If this is something you'd like to take advantage of, it's a no charge service. Our team will sit down with yours and have a look at the back end of your dashboard and see where you can have more automation, where you need human intervention, where is your data segmented properly for things to work, for functions to work within HubSpot. All of that is available. We had a question actually too about the recording of this this workshop. You guys will be getting the recording usually in about 3 or 4 business days is when we send them out. There'll also be a link to book that, book this portal review with either myself or with John, who is my counterpart working in Vancouver, BC. We'll be happy to do this with you. So make sure to look out for that email. And make sure your tech stack is ready for 2021 because as we've seen, especially with last year, it's integral to be able to distance sell well and do far more selling over platforms like Zoom, HubSpot, Salesforce, whatever it may be, than in person face-to-face sales. Now, why am I leading you to a PowerPoint slide with a race car? Well, at Flawless Inbound, we get asked a lot about what does an engagement look like with us, and we like to use the metaphor of a race car because with a race car, while there's the driver in the car that's important, there is also a full team supporting them from different capacities. And in our engagement model, we love our acronyms here, but we have a kind of a triple P method, right? And that stands for people, playbook, and platform. So our people, we have a full team supporting you, whether that's on HubSpot, Oracle, NetSuite, or whatever your digital transformation needs may be. There's always a team supporting you. We have a playbook, whether it's revenue-driven marketing, whether it is sales and marketing alignment, whether it is ERP side, ERP, warehouse management, functionalities, whatever it may be. We have, again, we showed the 6 playbooks at the very start. So all of those. And then of course the platform. We represent 3 enterprise business transformation brands in HubSpot, NetSuite, and Vidyard. We've handpicked these because they support they all play well, really well together. So you can have that full digital transformation journey that we're talking about. And secondly, they all have different levels of expertise of helping out different departments, different job roles, do certain things better in digital transformations. So This is what our, from a HubSpot engagement, just kind of paint a picture. This is what the team supporting you would look like. You have a team of 6 or more always working with you throughout your journey, whether that's a project engagement, whether that's on a retainer where we're working with you for many, many years. That team is always there accountable, working for you full time, with their different levels of expertise, as you can see in the different job roles there. Just a little bit about our own journey, where Flawless and Bound is. So we work with Oracle NetSuite, and we're a HubSpot Platinum partner. We have worked with BC Tech and the Mars Discovery District. We have published a book about digital marketing. If someone wants a copy of that, please reach out to myself or Seher, and we'll be happy to send you a copy. And in terms of HubSpot accolades, we're one of the only partners of 14 worldwide to hold the HubSpot Advanced Implementation certification. It's something that we are extremely proud of as a team. Lastly, if you're not following us on LinkedIn, this is the best platform to keep up with Flawless Inbound, whether that's attending our webinars, whether that's Oracle NetSuite or HubSpot, reading up about our blogs, seeing other events that we're working on, things that we're doing in the community, those sorts of things. I highly recommend, if you aren't, please go to our LinkedIn page and give us a look and a follow. This is the best way to register for events like these, or find out what we're doing.
And Max, I just want to add a couple of things. First of all, thanks to everybody joining the call today. We're having actually 12 participants who are asking questions. I hope, Max, you're monitoring some of the chats as well. Just always, if you like this session, please mark down the last Thursday of each month, usually at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. You will see from us a presentation on digital transformation, and this is more on kind of the bigger picture, how you implement an ERP solution or migrate from a traditional financial or accounting platform to a holistic ERP solution. In the afternoon at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, this is will be workshops focused on sales and marketing alignment, organizational growth, and case studies using the HubSpot technology layer and technology platform as well. And we're always here for questions. We have a lot of case studies on our website. You guys can see how we're working with our clients, or even you can download some of those case studies or playbooks and maybe implement it yourself as well. And we always wish you all the best.